Welcome. Okay, let's be honest, everybody. My daughter's almost 15. She doesn't still call me mommy anymore. I'm just mom, or you'll hear an occasional mama. That to be confused, though, with the one who started this addiction, my mom, Christine, whom she calls mama. So I'm mama, and she's mama. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my daughter, third generation, fellow true crime junkie, Mika.
Hello. So, as my mother just said, my name is Mika and I'm turning 15 in about 4 months. I'm a hardcore true crime junkie. I fell in love with true crime by watching it with my mother when I was very little. And that's actually how my mom fell into this deep, dark pit known as true crime.
Okay, so to the story. The date is November 18th, 1987.
I wasn't born yet.
I was a baby. It's in a small town of Ina, Illinois. Keith Dardeen is a 29-year-old local water treatment plant worker. That's a lot to say. He's a husband to Elaine, and she's a little bit older. She's 30.
Some men like older women. That's fine.
Well, I mean, she's not that much older. Just a smidgen. Just a smidgen.
Just saying.
They have a sweet little boy. He's 3. His name's Peter. Then Elaine, she's 7.5 months pregnant, and they decided that they're gonna name. Back then, they couldn't tell like the sex and stuff, but they decided that if it was a girl, it's gonna be Casey, and it was the girl. So, baby Casey. Well, Keith, he was a very dependable worker, so when he didn't show up for his shift, his boss got real worried, and so he decided he was going to call his friends and his family to try to locate him. Finally, he talks to Don Dardeen, which is Keith's dad, and he decided he wanted to call the police to go and do a welfare check, which, to me, that sounds a little sketchy because he had a key. Right?
Yeah, why didn't he just go check himself?
Right. If it was me, I would go and check on you. And why do I need a police officer?
I mean, I'm the child. If it was you, I'd go check on you too.
Right. I got a key. Why do I need a cop? That was a little sketchy to me. Well, anyways, I digress from the story. The story is that Don, with the officer, entered into the apartment, and they entered into something that had been said that it was too gruesome for daytime TV. Back then, it was too gruesome, the scene was, to describe on daytime television. Nowadays, they would tell you probably every single detail, just like we're about to talk about now. Well, anyways, so they find poor Elaine. She's beaten so badly that it forced her to go into labor, and she delivered baby Casey while she was being beaten. Well, then the unsub then beats to death the baby.
What?
Almost immediately. So the baby, he forces the baby to be born just to kill it right away.
Well, now your effort's in vain because you helped the baby be born, and then
he wasn't really
kill it.
He wasn't really helping. Baby would have rather stayed in its mom than be beaten and all that. Well, anyways, so then, after beating the poor baby girl, little Peter's beaten. They're all beaten with little Peter's bat that his daddy got him for his previous birthday. So then, get this. This is weird, okay? This is how they find the 3 of them. All tucked together in bed. So
they were beaten.
And then he put them in the bed together and tucked them in. Then cleaned the house. Okay.
So did he clean the house of evidence, or did he just clean the house in general, like do dishes or vacuum?
I think he kind of just like cleaned up the evidence and stuff, like from what I've read, but I don't know. They didn't really go into much detail about the extent of the cleaning because it was weird.
With this kind of situation, you gotta go in depth with the cleaning because
now you're wondering.
Because if you're cleaning up evidence, that's different. You know, any murderer, any assailant would do that. but cleaning the house, that goes a little past.
That's a little weird.
That's psychopathic.
It wouldn't surprise
beating
me.
someone to death is psychopathic
Right.
in general.
I wouldn't put it past him, one, because he beat all three of them. Two, he tucked them into bed. So if he cleaned the house, like, to be a nice guy, clean the house.
I beat you to death, but I'll clean your house just to be nice.
Don't worry about it. I'll make sure there's nothing to worry about. Well, anyways, so the three of them. Who's suspect number one always?
Dad.
Dad's always the suspect, except for 3 hunters for by field. And he's shot 3 times. And Lorena bobbited. You're going to have to look that one up. You'll get it when you look it up. It's... I can't say it on...
What?
I can't say it on YouTube.
Say it was?
Lorena bobbited. Lorena Bobbitt. It's a case that you should look up, and you'll find out exactly what happened to poor Keith. It's not nice. Well, it seemed strange to everybody because everybody who knew him, they were a very religious, kind family, and everybody liked them. So for it to be such a gruesome crime, that seemed really strange to everybody. So what happened? I mean, it had to be like, that was personal. Like the way they were killed, all 4 of them, especially Keith, like, oof. Well, in that town, nobody ever really locked their doors because it was such a small town. And so, of course, there was no forced entry. Nothing was stolen. And Elaine remained intact. Also, another thing we cannot say on YouTube. But something was off about the time of death of Keith. It was almost a full 24 hours before the time of death of the other 3.
So he was killed prior to
almost
other
a day
being killed.
So they probably
went
through.
So how come they didn't report?
Because they were probably being tortured.
Okay.
Like they probably went through a lot of bad stuff. In that time, like all those hours. But what was weird to me is that Keith mentioned to his mother a couple weeks prior or months prior that he didn't feel safe in Ina anymore. And so they're thinking it's possible because there was an uptick in murders in the nearby counties. And so they think it could be he was worried about that, but he never really said. So was he in trouble, or was he just worried about these murders that were happening around? Who knows?
His dad's so suspicious. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like his dad. Why would his dad just assume to call the police for a welfare check and not just go to check on him himself?
I agree. But oddly, in the year 2000, the serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells, the coast-to-coast killer, he claimed that he committed the murders. So this is 2000, so this is years later when he got caught. He claimed that that was one of the murders that he had committed. But the details he gave either didn't match the evidence or he kept changing his story.
Oh, he's a liar.
Right.
He's a liar. There's
he
no
was
way.
also diagnosed with like severe mental illnesses and psychosis and things like that prior to his execution in 2014. So Keith's mother, Joanne, she feels that he was lying all along.
And like, if he's already going to prison for life, he might as well glorify himself even more in the fact that he did that.
Right.
So.
Right. And so he just wanted to make himself, I don't know how people want to make themselves look better by him. Oh yeah, I killed another person. That makes me look good.
I feel like serial killers now, the more gruesome the crime, the more interested people are into it. That's why people like Jeffrey Dahmer and Charles Manson are so, like,
why do we like true crime so much? What's wrong with humans?
I mean, I'm never gonna do it, so why am I so interested in people murdering other people? I don't know.
Odd thing that we fell in love with.
We're getting off track again.
We're digressing. Well, anyways, that pretty much is it. Joanne thought nobody, she doesn't know who did it. She thinks the killer's still out there. and it still remains unsolved to this day.
I think it's the dad. Final thought.
Yeah.
I think it is the dad.
My
because
final notes,
I
are
don't-
Don Dardeen.
Because there's no way he calls the police and says, I haven't seen their family in so and so amount of days. Well, why didn't you go check on them? Well, because
That's just weird.
well, there is no because. You should have gone to check on your family, especially if you care so much about them that you haven't seen them in like what 1-2 days. That you decide to call the police for a welfare check.
My thing is like, what would be his motive on doing that? Why would the dad want to do that? Like, I mean, he seems the most likely, yeah, but I don't know why he would do it.
I mean, there are a few serial killers that do it just because they want to know what it feels like.
But if it was his dad, it was, well, okay, that is a serial killer.
Like,
he killed more than 3 people, and he killed 4, so... serial killer.
I think his name's like the Ed Killer or something like that. He killed his grandparents just because he wanted to. He wanted to know what it felt like.
Save it for another day, Miki. Save it for another day.
I'm just saying, people just want to know. People just want to know what it feels like, so they just kill people because they want to. You know.
That's an interesting thought.
I'm just saying, he could have done it just because he wanted to.
All right, well, that's all I got for the Dardeen family. It's unsolved.
Unsolved ones are always
Always.
the shortest because you've got no evidence because it's so unsolved.
Yep. So, to this day, unsolved, the Dardeen family. Okay, Mika, now go to sleep.